Hello everyone, I Ria Pahuja from Economic Times welcome you all to the webinar Insights into Strengthening Your Security Protection, Detection and Remediation. The traditional on-prem security perimeter has dissolved and legacy security stacks are unable to secure a remote workforce and cloud-hosted applications. Today, the internet is the new corporate network. How are you making sure that IT administrators have the proper visibility into the user activity and can minimize attack surfaces in this cloud-first world? How do you provide users with an optimal experience without the struggle of traditional VPN? Today, CrowdStrike and Zscaler will answer those questions. And for this very topical discussion, we have with us Mr. Sudeep Banerjee, Director Transformation Strategy, Zscaler. A very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody.
We also have Mr. Sadbir Singh with us, Lead Technical Consultant, CrowdStrike India. A very warm welcome, Mr. Singh.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone.
Great. Before we go ahead, I would like to inform attendees that they can drop in their questions and queries in the box provided. We will take them at the end. So, Mr. Singh, I guess our audience is waiting to hear from you. So, over to you.
Thank you so much. To start the session for today, I'll just go and walk you through the agenda. We're going to talk about challenges in the cloud first era. Going to talk about the real problems that we are facing in current situations. A bit of overview of the CrowdStrike, a bit of overview of the Zscaler, and then we're going to talk about the integrations. Once we are done with that, we'll open it up for Q&A and we'll have a brief discussion about it. Before we start, we're going to have one quick poll question.
Sure. For this poll question, we ask our attendees, what is the ratio of your applications in the cloud versus the on-prem data center? The options are 25% in the cloud and 75 on-prem, 50 in the cloud and 50 on-prem, 75 in the cloud and 25 on-prem, or more than 75 in the cloud. Attendees have quick 30 seconds to answer the question. While we are waiting to hear from the attendees, what do you think, speakers, the options will look like, the answers will look like?
It actually depends upon the kind of companies who are represented here, but my guess it would be mostly about 25% in cloud and 75% on-prem.
Sure. Let's see what attendees have to say. So we have the results with us. 39% go with 25% in cloud and 75 on-prem. 34 go with 50% in the cloud and 50% on-prem. 9% go with 75% in the cloud and 25% on-prem. And 18% go with more than 75% in the cloud.
That's quite interesting.
So with that, let's start up the session for today. We are going to talk and start it off with some of the current challenges that we face in today's scenario. When we look into the current situation of lockdowns, COVID, pandemics, one of the things that we have observed in so many events over the time is the number of attacks have dramatically increased. And these are not just the simple attacks of ransomwares, but there are a lot of nation state activities which are happening across the environment. And we need to take care of these increased parameters of attacks into the environment which we have. The second area is the cloud migration, where we see a majority of the tasks that we have in hand today is to go and digitalize the entire environment, try and use more and more cloud, try to be more flexible in terms of delivering the solutions and have a business continuity in place. The third area that we see, which is of great concern right now, is majority of the systems that we have where the end users are working. It's not within the corporate environments, it's sitting at home environment. And that is where we do not have much of security. It's just those systems stuck into cloud. And these are the main three challenges that we are trying to solve to help our customers go on and continue with their business. If we go and look into the attack sophistication, when a machine is just sitting in its home or it's roaming outside, we do have technologies to go and take care of this problem, but predominantly these are the technology which are sitting on the machine. And if we look into over the years how the security has been built up, there are different type of attacks that comes into play. There are file-based malwares, there are fileless attacks, there are exploits, and then there are scenarios where an attacker is live sitting in an environment trying to do some activity and advance more towards a breach situation. To take care of all of these different situations, we have different type of technologies that have been built up. So we have signatures. That's a very basic technology with which the entire security starts, and that's your antivirus. Then as the attack started modernizing, we started having more and more technologies in place. So today we talk about machine learning, we talk about behavioral analytics on it. And these are the pieces which are built up on the system to take care of some sort of attacks for us. But predominantly it's been designed to take care of file-based malware, which can be either a known malware or a zero-day. Over the years, what we have observed is the majority of the breaches that have occurred. These breaches have not occurred based on a file-based malwares. These have occurred based on a fileless attacks. Because what attackers also know is majority of the tools which customers have in their environment is looking at a file. Just take as an example antivirus. Antivirus, what it does, it looks into a file and calls out whether a file is good or file is bad. But when we look into a very sophisticated technology to discover unknown things, which we call sandbox, sandbox also takes an input as file, and then it says whether the file is good or file is bad. So when we look into these different technologies, these technologies go and give us a picture of what are the file-based threats which are coming into the environment and do not give us a real picture of these modern attacks of fileless, which these adversaries are using nowadays. We do have technology to take care of these type of things. We do even have technologies to take care of attacks which are built on the systems using trusted tools and technology which are out there. And such tools predominantly are SIEM. People use behavioral analytics into their SOC. They use threat huntings. But this is all which security which is lying within the environment, right? And this sort of protection is not available when the end user is roaming or the end user is sitting at home. Now, when we talk about these attacks, majority of the problem that lies within it is these malwares, these attacks are not just a malware. There's a person behind it which is designing this, and he has a specific motive around it. So when we talk about ransomware, majority of the activity of ransomware has been happening from North Korea. These are attackers which are funded by the government of that nation, right? And the whole idea that they have is to go and gain more cryptocurrencies, gain more bitcoins, and that allows them to continue their military operations and other things around different nations. So it's very important for us to go and track these threat actors, understand why they come inside an environment, what's the motivation behind them, what are the industries that they target, what are the countries that they target. And that provides us to think about a security paradigm which will help us to solve the main root cause of the problem. When we look into the security, one thing that we often look into whether we have a coverage around it or not, right? And that's one of the prime motive when we are looking into designing our next piece of projects into the security area. But there is one more area which we need to look into, and that is how fast these threat actors are, because time is gonna play a very critical role to understand whether we will be saved or we may have a breach in the environment. We have studied these threat actors, and what we have found out is when an organized e-crime threat actor comes into an environment, it typically takes 10 hours to start laterally moving, start spreading, right? And as we have seen in last few months, as the problem spreads, it becomes more complex and it takes more time to clean it up, right? So if we want to take care of these type of threat actors, we need to be faster than them. When these are nation state adversaries, people who are funded by the government of some nation, for example, let's say China. China in the last 2 to 3 months have started doing so much nation state activities in cyber crime against India that we have seen a huge uptick in that. When we go and look into how fast they are, CrowdStrike calls them as pandas. And a nation state Chinese adversary can laterally spread in your environment from one machine to other machines in a matter of 4 hours. So if we want to protect ourselves against a Chinese threat actors, we need to have a plan in place, we need to have tools in place, we need to have team in place, which can go and take care of this problem within 4 hours. What we see the fastest are the bears, and bears are Russian threat actors. They typically take 19 minutes to start spreading into an environment. So that's the time frame that we need to have as a benchmark to ensure that if some incident happens in an environment, we should have things covered so we can understand it and we can remediate it in matter of minutes, and do not take hours or days. Otherwise, the problem will become huge. It starts spreading. The second area that we see as we start modernizing our business is we are moving more and more applications to cloud. And that's for basic simple reason that it gives us more advantage in doing business. It gives us more flexibility. It facilitates more collaboration and gives us avenues to do new business models. It overall goes and simplifies IT for us. And that also has given a rise to network transformation, where we see things moving just from a WAN to overall internet. And that demands fast user experience, network cost savings, and simplifying the IT with the agility that we get to work from anywhere. But as we think about these things, the most critical area is security for it. Gartner also goes and rates in its white paper that they have launched last year in August that organizations should now start thinking about SASE. They should think about more and more using cloud native platforms. And that's because that allows you to go and build up standardization across your environment. It gives you similar security every single place. Either it's an on-prem device, either it's your end users roaming outside, or they're sitting at home. The manageability becomes easy. The overall manageability is very transparent and standardized across the environment. The third problem that we see is, which is the critical one in today's scenario, is majority of the machines are sitting at home. And when these devices are sitting at home, some of the challenges that we see with this is sharing of endpoint devices at home is a big problem. You do have your corporate device, but within the same Wi-Fi network, there would be plenty of devices mobile. There would be some laptops. There may be few desktops as well. And even though we provide security onto our corporate laptops, we are not sure what are the type of threats which would be living in the same subnet. And that's one area of worry because the threats can laterally move from there. These threat actors can come onto one of the home devices and may have an ability to laterally move to your corporate device from where they may have access to the business critical data. Since the lockdown has happened in a hurry, there was not much of a notice. Majority of the organizations have put a plan of it very, very quickly. And we put up any plan in a very short span of time. There are things that we may overlook in certain scenarios. So we may not have that stringent policies at some of the areas where we should have had if we had more time. The third problem that we see with this is if a threat comes onto a machine, right? Do we have proper crisis management, incident management tools in hand to take care of that scenario? Or even before that, do we have the visibility to understand that the corporate laptop that is sitting at home today, it has missed to prevent some attack and something has happened on a machine? If we do not have that visibility, we will not be in a position to understand that and go and take care of that problem. Majority of the tools today of security, they require some or the other form of VPN connection back to your corporate network to deliver the best of the breed security to you. So what will happen in scenarios when we do not have these in place, when users are not using the VPN and they're just connecting directly to the internet? Before we move forward, just a quick poll.
For this poll question, we ask our attendees what percentage of your user base is connected from untrusted devices. The options available are 0 to 25%, 26 to 50%, 51 to 75%, and 75 to 100%. Again, speakers, your thoughts here.
Sadhvir, what do you think? This one is for you.
I think it will be somewhere around 0 to 25% this time. Let's see, I'm a bit hopeful.
Sure. Let's see what our attendees have to say here. So we have the results here. 54% go with 0 to 25%, yes. 23% go with 26 to 50%, 19% go with 51 to 75, and only 4% go with 75 to 100%.
So even though it's a 0 to 25% as a range, when we look into this number of 25%, it's still a huge number. If we talk about practically 10,000 devices, we are talking about 2,500 machines where we may not have appropriate security. And if that is connecting to our corporate network, we do have a bit of challenges. Some of the things that we should think about right now is how many devices do you currently have connected to your corporate ecosystem? Right? Just think about that, because the other devices are the ones which may have risk factor involved with it. How many devices are trusted and how many devices are untrusted at the moment? Are they connected internally behind your controls, or are they open over an internet? Are they connected remotely? Are able to trust or challenge the existence of that device, right? Do we know actually such a machine is there which is connecting to maybe my SaaS application, maybe one of my corporate network? And these are some of the areas of concern that we need to think about today. So what CrowdStrike and Zscaler have done together is we have built up an integration that helps you to deliver best of the breed of technologies for all of these various scenarios. Both the technologies are completely cloud native by design and cloud delivered by design. So irrespective of wherever the machine is, either it's on-prem, either it's roaming, either it's at home, we go and follow that device. So you get the security everywhere as you can do business everywhere. It enables you to go and have full visibility, not just of the endpoint, but from your endpoint to the network. You would know what is happening on a machine. Be rest assured that yes, it's being taken care of from a visibility standpoint, but it's not just restricted to the endpoint. It's even taking care of it from the network angle as well. Every single thing that your end user is browsing over an internet, we have a strong integration to understand, pass on the information, and deliver the security back to you in any form or channel. It goes and automates the overall rapid detection and response mechanism. So either it's a commodity malware or a scenario where there is a nation state attacker of North Korea, China, or Russia just put a foot onto one machine, we can take care of it and ensure that you've been taken care of. Before we move forward with the integrations, we will just go and touch base on a slight introduction overview of what CrowdStrike is all about and what Zscaler is all about. If I put it up in a very simple terms, what CrowdStrike is doing in an industry, our job is to go and stop breaches. That's the one thing that CrowdStrike is delivering as a main outcome. But while we go and we do that, we do not go and put up a lot of complexities into the environment or make the entire process look cumbersome. We go and give a lot of security efficiencies back to the customers, so their team has a more breathing time to go and take care of things. And at the same time, we maintain the end user's productivity. So when you go and put up CrowdStrike onto the machines to ensure that you have full breach prevention, we're not going to go and increase the compute of the device. In fact, we're going to do a reverse of it, where we're going to drastically reduce it by 20 times. So all that performance goes back from security to the end user to do their business activities. Just last year alone, CrowdStrike have stopped 35,000 breaches in customers' environment. So when we say 35,000 breaches, this is not a number of malware that came on a system. These are real scenarios where attacker put a foot in the environment. We saw that and we stopped the attacker there and throw them out. That's the number of 35,000 potential breaches that we have stopped last year alone. When we talk about the entire CrowdStrike platform, we have security products in different verticals. It's there in cloud security, endpoint security, security and IT operations, and threat intelligence. Every single product is delivered through a single agent, single management console, and contributes less than 1% CPU. It provides you flexibility, it provides you security on every single workload that you may have. Either it's your Windows, Linux, Mac, Android, iOS. We even go and support containerization today. Every form of virtualization is supported. Either you talk about VDIs, either you talk about private virtualization, or you talk about public virtualization. In public, we support all three: Azure, AWS, and GCP. But when we talk about today's time, the entire platform is designed to go and provide you a solution which is not impacted by any pandemic, and you can have a smooth running operations of security during and after pandemic. CrowdStrike delivers you full cloud coverage for all your workloads, irrespective of wherever these workloads are. Either it's on your machines, desktop machines, on your servers, on the cloud, or on a device sitting at home. The entire solution is cloud native. So it does not have complexities to go and restrict the speed or restrict the analysis. We can do as rigorous analysis in real time and deliver security back to you in a real time fashion, which ensures that you never get breached. The entire visibility of the work from home user would be available. So from a security standpoint, anything that happens on a machine, we do not just have a visibility around it, but we have full control in terms of taking care of it. And while we go and take care of it, you do not have to think about asking end user to stop his business work and give the laptop back to IT so they can analyze things and bring it back to normal. Users can just work on his Excel, on his Outlook, and in the back end, we can just silently clean up his system totally in a seamless fashion. One of the critical advantages that you get with a cloud native solution is it is designed in a way where you do not have to frequently update your systems to ensure that you have best of the breed of protection on the system. And the way it's been designed, the entire solution is non-intrusive, which means the agent does not go and scan on the systems to increase the CPU load. There is no signature on the machine which you require directly update of. Even when you go and you deploy the solution, you do not have to think about rebooting it, planning a downtime. It ensures that the working of the security that you will have in the operations is seamless wherever the device goes. We are the only endpoint solution in the market today, which goes and unifies next generation antivirus, EDR, managed threat hunting, threat intelligence, everything delivered via a single cloud native platform to give you a breach prevention across your environment. With that note, I'll hand it over to Sudeep to take you through an overview of Zscaler.
Thank you, Sadhbir. I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes, Mr. Banerjee, we can see your screen.
Perfect. Okay. So hi, folks. My name is Sudeep Banerjee. Thank you for tuning in to this webinar with Crowdstrike and Zscaler. I run transformation strategy for Asia Pac and Japan, working with large organizations, essentially in terms of cloud security and what are the solutions we bring to the table. So before we start with Zscaler, let's do another kind of a quick poll. Priya, over to you.
Sure. For this poll question, we ask our attendees, was your organization ready or equipped to handle this huge shift for workforce from office to remote working locations? Options are obvious, yes, no, or maybe. You have quick 20 seconds to answer the question, attendees. Mr. Banerjee, what do you think?
Most of the organizations I've talked to, they were able to handle. Of course, some handled this elegantly and some handled this in a hurry-burry fashion. So there were some kind of security concerns which are still open.
Sure. Let's see what our attendees have to say here. So 64% go with yes, they were equipped, 14% say no, and 22% are in delusion, they say maybe.
Sure. So it goes to say that since all of us are working from home, we are attending this webinar, we are doing office work, which means that the businesses have not stopped. So definitely people are able. And I know of companies who were kind of running around trying to procure some laptops on rental, or they're moving desktops, which are essentially fixed location equipment, back to users' homes, just to manage this, because nobody thought about this pandemic, the severity of it, the length of it. We still don't know whether we are going to be out of the woods by whatever end of this calendar year, or if it goes to the next year. So things are a little kind of concerned. Just one more kind of poll area to get the pulse of the audience.
Sure. The next poll question here is, what were or are the challenges faced by you when making this shift? The options are enabling secure access to all internal and external applications, rapid deployment of security solution, cyber protection regardless of connection, device, and location, all of the above or none of the above. I repeat the question for your reference, attendees. What were or are the challenges faced by you when making this shift? The options are enabling secure access to all internal and external applications, rapid deployment of security solution, cyber protection regardless of connection, device, and location, all of the above or none of the above. Let's see what our attendees have to say for this poll question. We have the results with us. 5% go with enabling secure access to internal and external applications. 4% go with rapid deployment of security solution. 17% go with cyber protection regardless of connection, device, and location. 63% go with all of the above, and 11 go with none of the above.
Yeah, I think definitely. So this actually very accurately depicts the state of the enterprises and other business functions today. Definitely, all of them are of concern. As I told, there were not too much of time for companies to plan. Everybody's BCP plan was laid out for maybe 1 or 2 locations going down because of a natural catastrophic event like an earthquake or a flood or something. But 100% all office closure, 100% users all moving to home and continuing to work from there. Obviously, nobody planned for that. So definitely, there was a huge pressure in terms of building up this scale at a very fast pace, and also kind of looking at things like whether users are having access to all sorts of applications, because enterprises today have applications everywhere. Even 5 or 6 years back, I would say maybe 90-95% of companies' applications would have been on their on-premise data centers. But now with the advent of cloud computing, with the advent of all the major players like AWS, Azure, opening up their data center footprint and cloud regions in India, it makes sense. Of course, we are having so many companies which are like born in the cloud. For example, all e-commerce companies, all the companies providing us, let's say, online food delivery, travel. So many different companies are completely, cloud native. And traditional organizations, let's say, like banks or manufacturing companies and others, even those companies today cannot run all of their IT in a siloed fashion. They have to integrate with the other kind of stakeholders, with their partners, with the other ecosystem players, using technology like API. So for example, they have to put up quite a few of their customer facing or partner facing applications onto, let's say, cloud platforms, and then string them together. Each of these integration points brings in additional risk to a particular enterprise, and they have to be protected from cybersecurity threats all the while. As Sadhbir kind of lucidly explained, there are so many threat vectors coming in. There's a huge jump of in threats in these COVID times, and also a lot of nation-state threats from the likes of China and elsewhere, which are targeting Indian organizations, Indian government enterprises, so on and so forth. Uh, in this particular webinar, what we are going to present is a unified story of Zscaler and CrowdStrike coming together to give a layered, security strategy, a defense in depth strategy. CrowdStrike and Zscaler are both respective leaders in endpoint security and in cloud security. And when we are talking about kind of go-to-market part, it is not only a marketing or a sales arrangement. We have integrated our platforms. So today, Zscaler, cloud platform talks over API to CrowdStrike, so that we can exchange different security telemetry and provide, a better security, both when the security threats are, let's say, trying to breach your network, which is, we can track them in motion. We can track them at rest. For example, a lot of companies' data today are residing on applications in public cloud, maybe your Office 365 or SharePoint or collaboration platforms like Teams and Zoom, everything, right? So a lot of companies' data actually is today not on the data center but on cloud. So how do you protect that data in ways? And finally, how do you protect all the various endpoints, be it servers, be it containers, be it your laptops, your mobile devices, all of that. And the world is also going for because all these security points, it's also generating a lot of data, and which helps companies like us to essentially apply machine learning and artificial intelligence kind of technology to better predict the chances of what is a good traffic and what is a bad traffic, and to kind of prevent them at source. And all of that is happening without putting any single appliance or complexity in the existing network and security footprint for enterprises, because these are all kind of cloud native solutions. Moving from here, so that's kind of the Zscaler. So we provide a cloud footprint which is global in scale, with about 150 points of presence across the world. And what we do is we look into each and every internet traffic, all TCP/UDP, all ports and protocols, not only web traffic but other non-web traffic as well. And we look for two things: whether there are any bad kind of threats which are trying to infiltrate, we stop that. We also look at data controls to see that all your company's intellectual property, right? Let's say bank's credit card database or something else, that is not getting pilfered out by applying DLP as well as cloud security, CASB kind of controls in the data path. There are two principal solutions in the Zscaler story. One is called Zscaler Internet Access. What it does, it protects essentially users from going to internet for browsing, as well as any kind of, let's say, public cloud SaaS applications, let's say Office 365 or maybe Salesforce or ServiceNow, right? Uh, and this security posture essentially is evaluated in the cloud. So it acts like a forward proxy. It protects the users. So whenever there is a kind of internet access or connection request, that is first the user is authenticated, and along with the user, we also do device authentication, and that's where CrowdStrike comes into play. We'll talk about that integration a bit later, essentially. And only after the user and device is authenticated, then only we provide them access to their destinations. The platform provides these various kinds of features, for example, in the areas of preventing of threats, controlling the access of users to app, as well as for data protection, right? So that's ZIA. And the second application from Zscaler is called Zscaler Private Access. Now, what this does is protects protects the applications for which the enterprises own the namespace. So, for example, anything like start.mycompany.com, your SAP instance, or maybe your some on-prem applications, your file servers. You talk about whatever. So, if your applications today are hosted in, let's say, either data center, or probably you have moved a few of them into public cloud instances, for example, in AWS or Azure or GCP, right? Now, how do you protect access to these applications, particularly in these times when users are all coming from home, from very loosely architected security, because home security is not adequate. It is not the same level of controls which users can get when they're behind a corporate stack of security. Thirdly, as Sadhvir mentioned, home networks are shared networks. It's not only your laptop, but also your child who are doing their online education. There's so many mobile devices. You're watching a smart TV. All that traffic is using the same Wi-Fi router at your home, which is not necessarily very secure. Uh, Zscaler private access works in a kind of a different way. What it does essentially is we provide this kind of lightweight connectors shown with these logos, either on data center or on public cloud where your applications reside, and we provide access to these applications on a completely secure basis, where we stitch SSL transactions between a user and between the applications on the Zscaler cloud, so that none of your internal applications are exposed to the internet, which essentially reduces your attack surface to a large extent, right? So you would be knowing that typically remote workers used to go to corporate applications over VPN technology. Now, VPN concentrators not only they were not kind of built to capacity to handle 100% of workers coming, from their home, but they're also inherently not a very secure technology, because VPN concentrators expose, internet addressing, and they have been kind of vectors for large-scale security breaches. So there are so many instances where the VPN gateway is the first point of breach, and once a user is on a company's network, they can then kind of do lateral movement. They can do a port lookup, they can look east and west, and possibly breach other applications and servers. So this is a zero trust access platform, which means that we provide least privileges. We will only provide access to a user and an endpoint only upon authentication, and that too also in a basis where the cloud comes and stitches the connection. There is no access of the user to the internal company's network. While doing that, of course, there are many technologies today which are used to protect your VPN gateways or your internal applications. For example, you must be using services like a DDoS protection from cloud, or for example, you have got set of load balancers or firewalls to protect that entire DNG segment. That can be eliminated to a large extent, so that companies can save on complexity, on appliance cost, as well as some of the networking benefits. So essentially, we're talking about providing zero trust access. There is also application discovery. Given that so much of our internal applications have to be now exposed to the outside world, it is often difficult to manage, for IT teams, even to know how many of their internal applications actually are exposed today. There are many functions, for example, marketing or sales, who would like to do experimentation by putting up some testing environment on the cloud or some kind of other shadow IT, which IT may or may not be even aware of, right? All of these are actually increasing your internet attack surface today. So how do you still manage to do all of these, but do it in a way which inherently protects all your internal applications from outside threats? Uh, so that's what this tech does. Jumping on now, let's move in, and I would like Sadhbir to also come along with me to talk about how Zscaler and CrowdStrike integrates to provide a holistic endpoint and cloud security. And we have got two use cases to talk about today. The first use case relates to our Zscaler Internet Access product, whereby we will try to showcase to you how zero-day threats, right, can be arrested using our cloud sandbox, service on Zscaler, and the same service can then also look into CrowdStrike on a API integration basis to find out whether the same kind of threat is present in any of the other endpoints, right? And then you can also instantiate a workflow so that you can quarantine or contain all of those endpoint devices to take them off the network. The
Yeah,
second
so the
thing, yeah, sorry, Sadhbir, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, so the integration here of Zscaler sandbox is with CrowdStrike's EDR. And CrowdStrike's EDR does three things for our customers. One is it goes and picks up any missed attacks which might not have been prevented in an environment, goes bubbles it up so security team can see it and take actions. From the action perspective, it has a complete response capabilities in place where you can go contain a device so you do not have any threat that it can go and laterally move to other systems. Second, it has full ability to go and clean up that device. So if attacker has made and dumped some malware on a machine, we can clean it up. If they have made some changes to your operating system, either in the form of registry or running some process on a machine, we can go and clean up them as well and bring your machine back to normal. And the third area that we have is perform threat hunting, analyze things from a forensic angle, understand if there is some underlying threat which is out there in the environment. So that's the integration which is going to play with the Zscaler sandbox in the first use case.
Perfect. Thank you. And the second use case we are talking about is access to your internal applications using Zscaler private access. So when we do a checking of the users, authenticity and identification before we grant access, we can also check, their endpoint status. For example, in today's scenario where so many BYOD devices or unmanaged devices are, accessing corporate applications from, let's say, home, how can you provide a security? So this is the second one.
In this, the integration of CrowdStrike is with the entire solution platform. So irrespective of whichever products and modules of CrowdStrike has been purchased by a customer, either it's a prevention module, which goes and takes care of all type of attacks, either it's file-based or file-less. It provides full EDR capabilities to you, so you can understand any missed attack and take care of it. On top of that, it also gives you threat hunting capabilities, managed threat hunting, where our guys will go and inform you if they see any potential breach activity in an environment, so your team can take actions. And then we also have hygiene projects which can go and provide you visibility of applications which are there in your environment, visibility of assets in your environment, visibility of how accounts have been used in your environment. So you are aware when they have been misused, when the hygiene is not very good around it. And it also goes and uncovers existing vulnerabilities to you. So if you want to ensure that all of that security of CrowdStrike is there on a system, and then only Zscaler provides you access of the corporate network, this is the use case which is going to play to deliver that peace of mind.
Great. So let's jump into these two scenario, and we would like to demonstrate to you how it actually works. So in the first scenario, the use case is essentially that of a zero-day threat. So the way it happens, first of all, the Zscaler cloud and the CrowdStrike cloud, they are linked essentially using API. So for example, if one enterprise has both these solutions, they can easily link it up using kind of sharing of keys and you can do that from the Zscaler Internet Access console. And once it is done, then let's talk about this particular use case where a particular user is trying to download a file from the cloud, and this file is being seen by Zscaler Cloud for the first time. Now, please also understand that we are talking about a multi-tenant cloud where we see upwards of 100 billion transactions on a daily basis, and there are more than 100,000 security updates every day to our cloud. But still, with attacks kind of going up all around us, there are chances of the zero-day threats increasing day by day. So when we identify that a particular file is not seen before, we would look into the policy. The policy says, okay, send the file to the sandbox, but also allow the file to be downloaded, because we don't want to also prevent users from working. Often sandboxing and returning a file and to arrive at results can take some time, right? So the file goes to sandbox, and the file also moves to the endpoint. Now the endpoint has got both Zscaler agent as well as the Crowdstrike sensor. See what happens. As soon as we find out in our cloud that the file looks to be malicious, we put up a score and we find out that it is above a particular threshold, which indicates it's a malicious file. We would immediately ask for telemetry from CrowdStrike. So this is the Zscaler console, but so along with the file property. So the file shows that it has got a score of 70, which is more than threshold. Some of the other file properties like its MD5 and SHA values. At the same time, CrowdStrike tells us on Zscaler's console that what, the same file has been seen on not one but three endpoints, right? So from the cloud, you can then kind of click, and you can seamlessly access your CrowdStrike console.
On the CrowdStrike console, as you click, you will get into the complete investigation details, where you will have every single bit of forensics available to you to have full visibility of what this file has done so far in an environment. And if you want to go and take care of the risk, it's not just restrictive to the CrowdStrike console, but we also go and provide action capabilities within the Zscaler as well, where you can go just hit a button and they will go and contain the devices.
Yeah, so you see this part where you can contain essentially. So once you click on that, it would trigger a workflow where it would kind of ask CrowdStrike to go ahead and kind of mitigate the risk by quarantining all those three endpoints. So this brings a real case study of a file-based attack, which is kind of looked into in Zscaler sandbox, found to be malicious, and then automatically triggering quarantine workflow on endpoints which are seen in this file.
So what we have done for our customers, what we have done for our customers is we have created a complete integration up in the cloud. So there is nothing that needs to be done on-prem. It's a seamless solution which delivers benefits to customer, where we are looking into two different solution sets, sharing threat information around it, which helps us to build up faster investigations and response capabilities that helps us to be ahead of the threat actor and ensure that we go and clean up the devices and throw them out in time.
Let's move to the second integration part. This is about access to the private application through the Zscaler private access service. As I told, we obviously authenticate the user, but for example, if you have to provide a conditional access, right, based upon device posture, that is enhanced a lot by the presence of, let's say, the CrowdStrike sensor. So whenever a user is trying to access, let's say, the corporate SAP application, which could be running on your on-premise data center, or it could be also on a public cloud, the platform would query not only about the credentials of the user, but would also look into the endpoint telemetry through CrowdStrike data, and then only provide access. So essentially, this provides twin benefits, which is it gives a zero trust access, and also it prevents any kind of non-compliant devices to access your corporate application. Satbir, your comments on this particular part?
Yeah, from CrowdStrike standpoint, if you look at, it's a solution that goes and delivers endpoint security back to you. So if the device is secure or it's not secure, we'll be in a position to understand that if CrowdStrike is there on a system. Definitely, when we are into a work from home environment and there are devices which are shareable within the same network, we may come across certain scenarios where customers, end users are using their home machines to connect to the corporate applications, right? Or maybe in speedy setup, we missed out on putting up some of the machines with CrowdStrike sensor. What this integration is enabling us to do is build up a zero trust access, that if CrowdStrike is not there on a machine, if we do not have the visibility, if we do not have controls, if we do not have prevention from it, do not allow that device to connect to any cloud or on-prem applications.
Right. So that kind of brings us to the end of part. This is not a poll, but we had something. So if you any of you in the audience wants to understand more about these solutions around internet access, private access from Zscaler, or the EDR solution from CrowdStrike, you can please get in touch with us, and then we'll be happy to discuss further. So over to you, Ria. This brings to a closure of the presentation. We will be happy to take audience questions at this point.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for the speakers for that insightful presentation and explanative demo. So, dear attendees, we here on begin with the Q&A round. Please drop in your questions in the chat box provided. We'll be addressing them now. So, Mr. Singh, Sadhbir, you mentioned in your part of the presentation about something about sophisticated attacks, and one of our attendees asked if you can explain what are those sophisticated attacks.
Okay. So when we talk about sophisticated attacks, what we have seen over the years is we have technologies which looks into malwares, right? So we can say this file which has just come on a machine, it's a bad file or it's a good file, right? And we have a lot of technologies already in place which can take care of these kind of things. Either it's a known threat or unknown as well. But nowadays, what we have seen is attackers have started using trusted applications to do bad stuff. For example, they will go and they'll use PowerShell. They will go and they will use CMD. They will start using more things on a system which is built up by the operating system itself. For example, let's say if you have an attacker who is on a system, got access somehow, he is just writing up in CMD IP config. He gets to know the IP of the machine. If he puts host name, he knows the name of a machine. If he puts system info, he knows the operating system, right? He can conduct multiple scripts on a machine using PowerShell to tweak the operating system in some or the other way. In each of these scenarios, none of the files used are malicious. If you go and check the reputation of these files, you will always find that these are trusted. And by the way, these are tools which are required on a system to function. So your operating system can work in a seamless fashion, right? It's very difficult to understand these type of attacks, and that's what attackers are using now to gain more information about your environment and to use it for their advantage to move towards an exfil, towards a breach. So that's what I meant when I said sophisticated attacks.
Sure, sir. One of our attendees asked the solution that you have demoed here. Is it a complete EPP, EDR plus DLP solution?
It's a complete.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Steve, go ahead. You take it first, then.
Okay, sure. It is essentially EDR and a cloud security platform kind of combination. The first one which we showed, which demonstrated the cloud sandbox to stop zero-day attacks and to stop the kind of lateral movement of that across the enterprise by looking into all sorts of endpoints which possibly would be seeing the same file and to stopping of that. It doesn't talk specifically about DLP controls, but Sadhbir, I would be happy to hear your views on this.
Yeah, that's correct. It doesn't go and take care of the DLP controls. The idea is to go and provide you two things. One is to ensure that your machine is not breached. Attacker do not get hold of it and you misuse it for their own advantage. And as and when the end user are using internet, they have a secure web access. They access the business applications which is over the internet securely, or whatever they access over an internet. It's a clean traffic. So that's what we are ensuring. Either they are doing browsing over an internet or any activity that happens within the machine. We take care of it from a security standpoint.
I just want to add to that because Zscaler acts like the kind of forward proxy. So essentially, we look into 100% of your SSL traffic. We can do the decryption of that traffic and understand whether there is any kind of data leakage possibility there or not by looking up our DLP dictionaries and engines. Also, there are cloud controls. For example, if you have got access to SaaS apps, for example, let's say OneDrive, or you have access to maybe social media sites. So, for example, are you allowed to go there? Are you allowed to post any thing over there, or you can only have a read-only view? Or can you transfer file from one particular tenant to maybe another tenant or not? So all of those controls can be built because we are inline in the traffic path, and the policies which are set for every user comes into play, irrespective of where you are accessing it from your home, from office, anywhere.
Yeah, and similarly, when you look at CrowdStrike, if you have a risk that external devices that connect to your corporate laptops, let's say mass storage, mobile phones, and you do not want data to get transferred to them, those kind of controls are available with CrowdStrike to ensure that corporate data do not get transferred into thumb drives.
Sure, sir. One of our attendees asked, is this viable for a small organization of 30 users?
I don't see why any organization size would prevent this from working together. So of course the complexity of a security obviously increases a lot with number of users, number of endpoints. But every company, whatever size and shape they're in, have to be worried about and protect themselves against any kind of cyber breach. So I don't think size should matter. We are happy to look into a specific case.
Sure, sir. One of our attendees asked, citing the example of a malware attack that happened last year in Kundalam nuclear power plant, he asked, how do we stop attacks in the industrial applications, considering the nuclear power plant had a distributed control system which was, connected through web, through firewall, and had an advancement of 4.0 era.
Okay, I'll take up that.
Yeah, sure.
So if you look at CrowdStrike, one thing that we have noticed in that nuclear power plant attack is this was an operation that was conducted by a nation state adversary, right? It's been attributed to North Korea doing these activities, and CrowdStrike goes and profiles these threat actors. So we have an awareness of what are the techniques they use, the tactics they use, what is the motivation behind doing an attacks by this organization, and that helps us to first of all build up the context and have a understanding of that threat actor. Now, once we have that, we impart that information into our platform with which we can look into these activities the moment they put a foot into our customer's environment. So our EDR analyzes all of this data, and then it gets enriched with the threat intel to ensure that we not only go and take care from a prevention or a detection standpoint, but we also go to a level where we know who the threat actor is. CrowdStrike today also supports IoT devices, and we also have good tie-ups with other organizations who provide you security into the OT areas. So we do have bit of OT footprint, and then we have partnerships with other companies who give capabilities of EDR and threat hunting into the OT. And that's how we build up an entire secure analysis of the environment of IT plus OT at a single place to ensure that customers are covered from every single angle.
Just want to add to that. You have to essentially segregate the idea of network access and application access. Ultimately, any user needs to access an application. It could be an IT application, OT application. You should prevent the user from accessing the network, because once you have access to a network, then you can traverse and you can look into other things, right? So this is the basic premise of zero trust, where you essentially are talking about providing access to applications only to secured and authorized users and not to the entire network.
Sure, sir. So the next question coming up here is, as a compliance and regulatory requirement, adoption of any cloud solution is a challenge. So what is your cloud setup in the Indian geography?
Maybe I can go first. Zscaler Cloud is present, globally. In India, we have our points of presence in three cities, which is Mumbai, Chennai, and Delhi. And based upon where you are, your traffic can go through that. The second part is because we are a security solution, we don't look into any kind of PII data or customer data, whatever. This is essentially just security transaction logs, which talks about the five tuple, like what kind of IP you are going, what ports, what protocols, which URL you trying to go, and all of these logs can be streamed real time to your existing SIEM solution. So definitely there are there's a compliance for all security and data privacy standards. We'll be happy to share artifacts for those if required.
Yeah, when you talk about CrowdStrike, it's pretty similar, where CrowdStrike also do not go and take any sensitive data of customers. In short, we are not taking files to cloud. We do not even know or have an awareness of what is there within a file. It's just machine execution data which goes to cloud to understand what has occurred in terms of changing the operating system from a security standpoint. So because of this reason, none of our customers have any concerns of utilizing this cloud-based platform. Our cloud is hosted on AWS in US, and the way CrowdStrike goes and delivers security is we have a single unified threat graph. It's an automated threat hunting engine which goes and analyzes 3 trillion events in a week. So if I'll just put it in terms of perspective, this is the amount of data crunching that Twitter does in 1 year. Right? We analyze all of these things at a single place, and that gives us a global view to analyze and understand things and deliver it back to our customers in the form of security. When you talk about certifications, our entire cloud is SOC 2 certified. It's trustee certified. And even when you talk about customers in India, we have top ITIS customers also, and we have large banks in India as well.
Sure, sir. The other question is, how effective is the sandbox in detecting zero-day attacks?
As I told you, because of the multi-tenancy, we look at hundreds, thousands of events, and Sadhbir also mentioned the amount of machine events they are looking into on a per week basis. So, given all this data and the kind of ML models which chance that, there's a high propensity that we have already seen what is there to be seen. So, for example, if any particular client of Zscaler sees a particular file and that is sandboxed and found to be vulnerable, we have that information updated to a cloud for all the customers to take benefit of. So that way we reduce the eventuality for many customers at the same time. And if not, then we kind of do the determination for respective part, be it Windows machine or Linux or maybe a Mac environment, and find out whether it is malicious or not. So if there's something to catch, we definitely catch that.
Sure, sir. Seeing the clock ticking by, quickly taking one last question here. Attendee asks, how to tackle if a Microsoft account itself is hacked in a private laptop?
Interesting. When you're saying a Microsoft account, so which means the endpoint is hacked, right? So, for example, if an endpoint is breached and if it is trying to communicate to any kind of CNC server on the cloud, because we are sitting in line, we would be able to block and prevent that. And I think Sadhbir, you can talk about the endpoint security part where CrowdStrike would play in this case.
Yeah, so if the hacking happens on the machine where some tools or tradecrafts have been used, CrowdStrike will have full visibility in terms of understanding that attacker is trying to do something on a machine, and will be in a position to go and first of all stop the activity from our prevention modules. If in case somehow, let's say it's the very new thing which has never been seen across the globe, not just from a standpoint of IP hash or domain, but even from a standpoint of technique, which is so rare that just one or two guys across the globe have just discovered it and using it. CrowdStrike can see it in real time. We can see abuse of it in real time. We learn it in real time. And our threat hunters can also go and inform customers that this is happening. And that's the whole idea of going and giving customer a complete breach prevention platform. Right? Let's say if such an activity has been discovered, with a single click in matter of milliseconds, we can contain the device and then we can clean up the device. If the account has been hacked somewhere else, right, and not on a machine where CrowdStrike was there, and then you start using the accounts there, we can still kind of have an understanding of accounts, or if you understand the devices, and we can take actions to contain the threat so it does not go and become big for you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh and Mr. Banerjee, for answering our question and that presentation. Dear attendees, we have tried our best to answer the questions, but because of the time constraint, we are leaving out on some questions. Do feel free to reach out to us on any of our digital or online channels. We'll be happy to help. Thank you so much and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.